Well, hello, my lovely bunch of coconuts. It's good to see ya. That's right. Today is PirateBorg Ep.3. We're going to do some solo naval combat today, and we've got some storytelling to do of Perry the Pirate. So, it is time to hoist the colors. Cheers. Well, hi, hello, everybody. My name is Turk. Welcome back to the Grouch Couch. Around here, we do all kinds of TTRPG things. Today, we're continuing on with PirateBorg. We're playing through the Down Among the Dead book that includes Into the Maelstrom. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. This here episode, those of you guys have been following along every week. It's going to be going a little bit late. You'll know why if you watch my update video. Have no fear if not. We have some plans and some things we're going to do in today's episode that I'm a little bit excited about. I planned it out, which got me excited to return, which I think is important. We're going to be talking about solo burnout a little bit next week. You can watch that video. Yes, and we printed out some roll charts. All of your guys' awesome name suggestions. We got so many suggestions for the name of the dog who has joined our crew. We got so many, I even gave him a little stat block. I had to, okay? We'll talk more about that in a second. But I want to say thank you for all you guys for the awesome suggestions, for all of your names and comments and things. I think Peg Leg Peg from last week has to be my favorite, so shout out to you for commenting that. I was even sitting with a friend who was looking at the comments and he laughed and went Peg Leg Peg. It was great. Yeah, I want to remind all you guys that if you plan on soloing PirateBorg yourselves, I would love to hear your tales of woe and your stories. Make sure to join the Discord and tell us about your solo PirateBorg adventures or anything else like that, because I'm a huge fan of this game. I love playing it. It's just great, honestly. Now, a little bit of YouTube Jibber Jabber, you guys, of course. Remember, next week or the following is going to be our last little part of Series 1 of Perry the Pirate, okay? Make sure that video goes up next week or the following, if that ends up being our last one. You know, solo plays. We never know how long these things are going to run for. That final episode, I'm going to need you guys to remember to leave a like on that video, okay? Because the more likes that video gets, the more encouraged I'm going to be to return to Perry the Pirate's adventure. Now, you should know that we return to Perry the Pirate's story and we do more piratey things. We're probably actually going to be playing Sundered Isles next time around. We're going to be giving that a shot. So if you've watched through this series, you kind of know a little bit of Perry the Pirate's origin story, okay? It's kind of what this was set up for, a coming to age story. And that's going to happen eventually. Later this year, we're going to return to Pirates. We're going to do Sundered Isles. It's going to be great. I usually like to do all my episodes in spots of 5 to 10 episodes, depending on how long the story takes to come to a good resolution, okay? Additionally, next week or the following, we're going to talk about our giveaway, because on my shelf here, I have an extra copy of Down Among the Dead that was sent to me by Free League. And since I already have a copy right here, we're going to be giving that one away to you guys, okay? Now, the only way for me to be able to do that properly, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it in the next episode, okay? But you're probably going to want to join the Discord, okay? Just know that. And the Down Among the Dead book is going to go to anybody, all right? Anybody that wants to win it. But also, if you're a channel member, you may have the opportunity to win a PirateBorg starter set. I'm still trying to work it out, but channel members may get access to that as well, okay? Speaking of channel members, shout out to you guys, all the channel members and Ko-Fi supporters. You guys have been supporting the show. You've been keeping us authentic. You friggin' rock. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Honestly, thank you, thank you. Now, I think that's all the YouTube Jibber Jabber. I think. So, just thank you guys for supporting the series, all right, here at the end of this. I want to say thanks. I have a lot of fun doing these longer actual play series where we actually get to develop characters. And I have a set of 5 characters that I really want to develop and put into this couch lore of a world, and Perry the Pirate's one of them. So the fact you guys are following along and watching these episodes has been great. It's been very encouraging me to continue and to just have some fun. So I just want to say thank you again for sharing your time with me here for Pirates. Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on here. I'm not green screening today. Ooh, I don't know. I just don't feel like it. So we are going to go over what we have. So to encourage myself whenever I play things so I don't get lost, a lot of times I actually print out an agenda of things I want to accomplish in each episode, right? And we always do our best, but we never know with like the roll of dice what exactly is going to happen. But today we're going to set sail, bond with our crew, and have our first naval combat encounter. That is the plan for today's episode. I'll try to do timestamps if you guys, all right, so you could, if you just want to see how naval combat works solo, I'll leave that down there. Secondly, very exciting stuff. I have typed up descriptions for everyone who joined the crew last episode. So we got Drake the Dreaded, the old pirate that Perry rescued from the beach. Older man with sea-worn skin, a limp, and patched pirate clothes from his wrecked ship. I try to include 3 descriptors for each character. I have a rule of 3 around here. Any more than that, you might get a little bit confused, so that's what I try to do. But I also put a goal for him is just to help Perry succeed and maybe finally make up for his own failures. I do think he has a secret as well, because we don't know anything about his original crew, Drake the Dreaded, but I didn't want to include that to have another story tie to bog up our story too much. much, but it might come up. Now we have the actual ones that we just added into the story last week. Magnus the Merchant. As you can see, everyone also got a class, and I did do a little bit of stats, so we'll talk about that in a second. It's on a different page, right? Don't want to bog up the works. But Magnus the Merchant is an ash dealer, a sharply dressed merchant in a faded but once expensive coat with slick dark hair, rings on every finger, and a nervous smile. His connected prisoner is Nero Blackwood. Their card was the Queen, because we're going to be putting together the prisoner deck today. We'll do that in the book. We'll do it together so you guys know how to do it. And our notes on Magnus is that he was first tied to Captain Anne Blackwood. So Anne is like the name before we changed it to Nero from your guys' suggestion. She vanished from the Driftwood Distillery and was feared taken by vampires, but we think that Nero Blackwood could be a romantic interest for Magnus. So I put that in there. That was important because that was the Queen of Hearts that we drew. Now we have Jim Bonesucker. I made him a brute because if you remember right, he's just huge. He's a huge guy. So an absolutely massive man. He wears a town guard breastplate, stretched over broad shoulders, intimidating as hell, but usually has a dumb grin on his face. So his connected prisoner is Catherine Chumbucket Reed, who is the magistrate's wife. The magistrate made a deal with Perry. Catherine Reed, Chumbucket, her nickname, was identified as the missing wife. So he is only with us because the magistrate promised us a bunch of silver if we could bring back his wife alive and kill Albric. Nextly, we have Jilly Buckets. Now, she is a tall tale merfolk, which we'll bring up in the book. I'll show you guys. It's cool that we could actually do this. And we'll talk more about stats in a sec, yeah. Pale skin, seaweed hair is what I ended up going with instead of blonde, dull hair. Seaweed hair, sharp teeth, and strange eyes. And usually we can only see the top half of her because she's in the water. I figured that was fun to put in there. Now, her connected prisoner is Brother Bartholomew. She's a siren who travels with the crew. She has pale skin, seaweed hair. I don't know why I put that in there twice. Usually only the top half of her, see, I put it in there twice. But she's a siren that travels with the crew. I guess that's the important bit. Lastly, the dog, which we're going to roll for dog names. All right, we'll do that after this. He is a tall tale. I made him a sentient animal because I want the dog to talk, actually. And we're going to cover that in a sec. His connected prisoner was in the book, but I couldn't remember when I was typing up my notes. So we'll refigure it out. But we did it backwards. So when you arrive to Charlotte's Cove, there's a dog there who's like missing someone. And then someone's supposed to tell you about that missing person. And then they come with you and whatever. But we did it backwards. We're taking the dog instead of the person, which I think is fun as crap. But their owner is still a prisoner aboard the ship. So the description is a stray dog found in Charlotte's Cove that has slowly decided that this is its crew now. I want it to be skinny with rough fur. I figured it might have like one single torn ear and, piratey colored patches, like all over its fur, make it a little more colorful, a little more animated. I thought that would be fun. Lastly, we have Snake, the swashbuckler. He was the drunk, if we remember. He's a skinny, twitchy pirate with long, greasy hair, bad teeth, and a coat full of hidden knives and stolen shit. And his connected prisoner is Hard Nelly, and it was the 9 of clubs. Cool. So before we move on to descriptors, I want to remember whom the connected prisoner is. Zadok is his connected prisoner. Who is Zadok? Zadok is 7. Zadok, an old man that has seen too much. So those are the full descriptions of our crew. Now, the fun part is I actually put together little basic character sheets for them. So as we can see here, they each have an HP, a little stat block, a weapon, just kind of for flavor, I think. They all have armor because in this system, armor is important. And I wanted them all, if we do get into fights, actually have the opportunity to actually pass away, because when we go to Sundered Isles, some of this crew might carry over with us, right? Anyways, each one of them also has like a class, right? Basically. And I gave each one of them an ability to be able to use. Now, some of these abilities I kind of just made up on my own just a little bit because I thought that they would be fun and fit their character. And that's the fun thing about PirateBorg is the abilities are kind of just big and open and loose. And I feel like a lot of them in the book are just, examples, if that makes sense. So as long as an ability fits their class and you don't get too crazy with it, you could have some fun, especially if you're doing NPCs like this, So speaking of that, Jilly Buckets has an ability, Siren Song. So if we come over to the book, we can actually see the Tall Tale page, right? So we actually have Merfolk right here. And that's what Jilly Buckets is. So merfolk lower their D4s by 4, the DRs by 4 when they're underwater, and they have to be submerged in water at least 1 plus toughness days they can go without water, pretty much. But there was no real abilities, and so I really wanted one. As you can see here, sentient animal is kind of the same, so that's what the dog is, and I just gave them an ability as well. So her ability is Siren Song. Once per session, Dilly may charm or distract anyone who hears her singing unless they pass a presence test. I thought that was perfect and fitting, so she can do a presence presence singing thing. Also talk about the dog has good boy. Once per session, they can warn the crew before danger or sniff something out important, which I don't really think is going to be like relevant in our story. You know, we're going to be on a ship and everything, but you know, who knows? Sixth sense or what have you. So that's the dog's stats, by the way. The dog only has an HP of 7. Okay, just so everybody knows, they have bite as their weapon, which is just a D4. All right, but that's just a little bit of a bigger version, so you guys can see where everyone is at if you want to check all that out, and we'll reference this as much as we need to. Cool. Now, moving on, we have our updated pirate names roll chart. There's only 15 on there now, but I did add all the ones that you guys suggested and removed all the ones we've already used. So we're going to continue to use these for a while, and I'm keeping them with my notes. So hey, even when we go into Sundered Isles, we may get some more pirate names, but I'll still have this list. We could use it as well, okay? That's way in the future, though. All right. Now, we need to figure out the dog's name, and we got so many good suggestions from you guys. We got Pegleg, we got Guppy. I want to give a big shout out to Bork from Lore by Night, because Bork, goodness, that's just hilarious. All right, so I wanted to give a big shout out to that. And just a bunch of other good ones in there, all right? Also, Cannonball is friggin' great. Calypso, hilarious. Play a Busta Barks, totally doesn't fit the theme, but whatever, hilarious. Luffy, Dog of Pirates, pretty good. So we have a 16 count here. We're going to roll a D20. Let's get our PirateBorg dice out here. Oh, and before we're allowed to roll any dice, we must light our candle. Our candle from Cantrip Candles. This thing is lasting so much longer than I thought it was going to be. I want to let you guys know that this Cantrip Candles candle, I've actually lit it a couple of times, even when I'm not playing, like when I'm prepping up things or writing my notes or whatever. I've lit the candle, and it's still almost full. This is a quality-ass candle, you guys. Now, we can roll our dice. We're going to roll a D20. If we get anything above a 16, we'll just roll again. But this is for the name of the dog. Here we go. That is a 2, Guppy. His name is Guppy from Jazzy Cat. All right, Guppy. We're going to put it right here on his sheet in both places so we don't forget. The dog's name is Guppy. Cool, that's that. And if a dog ever comes up in a name again or in our game again, we still have this. We'll keep it. But a shout out to all you guys who contributed awesome names, okay? You're great. Cool. Now, that is that. The only other little piece of homework we got to talk about is that my Limithron GM screen came in the mail. Yes, it did. This is pretty exciting. I just wanted to show it off to you guys. It's fantastic looking. Look at the shipwrecks and everything. It's going to go up on the wall over here. I love to collect GM screens. I have a plan to continue it up over the sign, or the Grouch Couch sign over there. This is actually going to replace one of the other ones, I think, because I like this one more than those ones, so it's actually going to go up over there. And I pulled it so they're just easily tacked up there, so I can actually pull them down and use them as I need. Now, the other side has everything that, oops, let's switch cameras, shall we? Has everything that we have already printed out. You can see, and because it's a little bit big and cumbersome, we're just going to go on ahead and continue to use our printed out versions, but this is fantastic. Oh, one other thing I want to say is that the ship part right here is like textured. You can see that? I'm 90% sure it's going to glow in the dark, but I don't know. It's just sick. It's just sick. Okay. For now, I'm going to set it up right here. Y'all won't be able to. It's just for me. I love it. All right. Intro and homework over. Now it's time to get into gameplay. Okay. We have Perry the Pirate's character sheet. I haven't added anything to it since last time. I didn't really feel the need to, but we're going to go over to our session agenda. We're going to establish our first scene here. We're going to set sail and establish our first scene and what's going on. So we're in our scene, our establishing shot, the Leech Slayer. Ahead, there is only ocean. And if we remember right, the ship itself still looks like it probably should have sunk on its very first voyage. Every step that Perry takes across the boards, the ship creaks, and I think that on the ship there is a place for a figurehead go. But Perry hasn't made one yet, or figured out what he wants his figurehead on the edge of his ship to be. Waves slap against the hull. The smell of salt and unwashed pirates hangs in the air. So, our newly found crew is scattered across the deck of the ship. I think a lot of them are already falling into their own little corner of the ship with their own responsibilities and duties. Near the helm of the ship, our young pirate, Perry, stands with one hand on the wheel, and his coat flaps in the wind as he stares out toward the horizon like a man pretending to know what is going on. And I think right below him we can see Snake, the drunk, sitting near the bow, sharpening a knife on a whetstone. His eyes keep drifting towards Perry every few seconds, because we remember he don't like him. I think at the back of the ship sits the biggest member of the crew, Jim. I'll pull this out. Remember all their names. Jim Bonesucker, quietly repairing probably some old torn stuff, but looking at all these pirates, eyeing them, keeping a good eye on these pirates, you know. Smiling, as happy as ever to be out on the sea, but keeping a good eye on everybody. Drake the Dreaded is probably sitting back on a crate with his feet up, probably smoking something that that smells really, really funny out of some old paper. I bet that the paper has ink on it, like he used paper from like a book or something to roll it up. And I think he looks way too relaxed. Everyone else is, preparing, staying alert, but Drake the Dreaded is not even close. Of course, Guppy the dog is wandering around the deck, smelling everybody, looking at everybody, but we're gonna cut back our vision in our scene here to Perry the pirate, standing up there on the deck, salt in his face, Charlotte's Cove disappearing behind him, and the whole damn sea just spread out in front of it, pretending like he knows what he's doing. And I think he's yelling commands down to the crew, like hoist the sails, pull up the stuff, but he's like asking Drake the whole time. He's like, pull up the sails, and Drake's like, hoist the sail, clean up the deck, swab the deck. And the first little interaction I want to have is that Guppy comes up to where the helm of the ship is and looks up at Perry, and I think Perry looks down at Guppy and pats him on the head, and he's like, well, little guy, I'm real happy that you decided to join the old crew. It's good to have a nice little dog on board. And Guppy looks up at him and locks eyes with him, and for a second Perry thinks, did this dog just understand what I said? And then Guppy goes, totally different contrast English voice, way out of left field, goes, right, well, I'm happy to be here. I'm looking for me old guy myself, and you seem like a good lad, so I had to join the crew. And I think everyone on the ship kind of like jaws drop, and they look at this dog, and they're like, oh shit, that dog just talk? Is this ship cursed? And Perry's like, no, the ship ain't cursed. All right, Guppy, that is your name. Are you truly a dog? What's going on? He's like, yeah, I'm a dog. Well, you see, there was a witch back in the day. She gave me sentience, and it's been real rough to live with. Rough, you get it? Anyways, now I'm just a dog living with the idea of turmoil and age and the end of time, and basically been having a midlife crisis forever because I don't know how any of this shit works. And Perry's like, holy shit, a witch, you say? Well, riddle me this, Guppy. What's it like to be able to lick your own asshole? It's funny, that's the first thing you were going to ask me. Somehow I knew. So next time you see me over there on the deck with my leg up licking my balls, I want you to just be jealous, because I'm never going to tell you. Anyways, you see, I've got a friend of mine, and my old owner, actually. His name's Zardock, and he was actually kidnapped by the old Maelstrom. I seen him come in. I seen him kidnap him. Apparently, they didn't think much of me, because I'm just a dog or whatever. But I know exactly what his place makes, Buff, and I seen the ship. I know what it looks like, and I could take you there. Easy peasy. And Perry's like, whoa, okay, well, good to have you on board then, Guppy. I hope the crew treats you well. Honestly, really surprised. I was hoping to just have a nice, friendly companion, but now that I see you have sentience for some reason, I feel like there's not gonna be, it's gonna be more to that. Yeah, maybe. And Guppy's like, oh, no, right on. Go on ahead, give me a pat on the head. I still love a good pet. And Perry goes, oh, all right, well, good. And he starts petting Guppy and continues steering over the ship. I had this idea when I read that Guppy could be sentient, a sentient dog, and I was like, hell yeah, he's gonna talk. That sounds awesome, because we love the weird sea, don't we? Now, a couple more little scenes here just to get a little bit more feel of our crew. I think we can see that Jilly Buckets is hanging onto the side, the Siren is hanging onto the side of the ship, and I think she's antagonizing Jim Bonesucker, because Jim is the town guard who's never seen anything like this, and she's kind of just questioning him, and he's a little bit freaked out, but he's trying to keep a smile on his face. And then also, off in a corner by himself, I think we see Magnus the merchant, who is counting his supply. Magnus is an ash dealer, which I think Snake has seen and gotten word of, and so Snake is kind of big time eyeballing Magnus and trying to negotiate deals with him, because Snake is not only a drunk, but I think Snake is gonna be an ash addict for sure, and I think at some point Snake is gonna get some ash from him, because I don't think the ash dealer themselves will take the ash, but Snake might take some ash, and we might be able to roll on some ash effects at some point. I think that's gonna be fun. Now we're gonna move on a little bit. As you can see, we've got our water map out here. Oh, but first, we must compile our pirate prisoner card deck. Organization. So now we have to separate our decks by suit. We have the hearts that are prisoners, clubs are mundane items, diamonds are treasure, and spades are encountered. And this is another cool thing if you're going to solo play this yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and separate them. Okay, put them in order just like they are in the book is what we're going to do. So we're going to do hearts here, then we got clubs, diamonds, and spade, so in the same orientation. So from all the 13 heart cards, use this deck to track NPC prisoners. When the PCs enter a room marked with a heart, flip over the top card of this deck to learn their identity. just kind of fun. You could randomize the people that you meet or whatever. But really what it's for, so whenever we go to the Maelstrom, we'll go into a room in the Maelstrom, and that's whenever we flip one of these cards, and it'll tell us who we find. Also, we're going to set aside face down cards to track prisoners that have died from timers expiring. So it says here in the book that after every hour or so of play, depending on how you're doing it, you're actually going to draw a card from the hearts deck and set it aside, and that's going to be all the prisoners that have died. So in our list, each one of those cards, those numbers, they're all linked up to somebody, right? Even Perry's card is linked up to somebody, which I think is Bacco, which is number 5. So if the 5 comes out of here, then Perry's brother has died on the Maelstrom. And that goes the same for everybody. So we have 7 different cards that all represent a prisoner, 7 out of 13 prisoners that are important to our crew. Now, when we're on the deck itself, we actually pull, we'll talk about it more once we get there, but we pull a spade and a diamond and we put them together for encounters that we'll run into at each place. So none of it's like predetermined, which I think is fantastic for playing this thing solo. And it's kind of why at the intro, I was like, next week might be the finale of this, because I think that I want to just play the Maelstrom. The island doesn't seem as fun for me, so we might just play the Maelstrom encounter instead. And that's why I also wanted Guppy to just know the way, so Guppy could just take us there. I think that was kind of a fun little narrative choice I made. Even though the islands seem great, but they feel more like filler to me. I want to get right to the meat and potatoes. Now that our prisoner deck is built, before we move on to anything else, which also that goes without saying that means that the ritual place and the item are going to be on the deck of the ship, right? So we'll find them. So if it's a 4-hour one-shot, every 30 minutes we draw and kill a prisoner. If we're doing a 2 to 4 session short campaign, every hour in real time, we draw and kill 1 NPC from the prisoner. So I'm going to keep track of my hours. We're probably going to draw 2 cards today, and we'll do a couple more tomorrow. But there is a description, I think, somewhere in here that describes what happens in the world. I guess it doesn't really explain it like I thought, but I think the way that we're going to do this is as we begin sailing out into the open sea, the sky gets darker, and we can see almost like this purple circle in the sky over an island. This is going to be the island that makes birth for the Maelstrom, which gives us more of an idea of where to go. And the sky begins to turn purple and red. And as this happens, we begin to hear bells dinging every hour or so. And whenever a bell dings, this means that Albric has continued doing his resurrection spell, and one of the prisoners has been killed. So every hour, we're going to draw a card and we're going to put it aside. And I'm going to keep it a complete mystery until we actually get to the Maelstrom. I'm not even going to know. You're not going to know. Because in the book, it says to keep the identity of the prisoner death secret as the GM until later. So we're actually going to do that. But as we begin to get closer to this island, I think a lot of us are on the ship, are getting a little tense, and we're all looking out. And I think we're actually going to use, just for fun and for narrative's sake, we're going to use Jilly Buckets. And Jilly Buckets is going to swim up to the side of the ship and look up to Perry, and Perry's going to go, "What is it? Is everything out there okay?" And she goes, "No, up ahead, 500 yards, a vampire ship, a vessel, seems to be guarding the island." And Perry goes, "Oh, that means we must take him out. We must get this vessel. Jilly, can you point the way?" And I think that we're sailing now through like this thick, dense fog. And we gotta try to be able to see through everything. And she's gonna navigate the way. And I want to roll to see if we can sneak up on them in our vessel, right? So we're gonna make like a presence check. And actually we're riding a sloop. This is gonna be a sloop check. We can see here we're riding in our sloop, so we're going to do an agility check with our sloop, which is a +2, to see if we can sneak around in the water through the fog to get up on top of these pirates, maybe to get a little bit of an advantage on them with the help of Jilly Bucket. So this is our prisoner deck. Everything else is just going to sit to the side for now. We don't need these until we get to the Maelstrom itself. Now, I had this idea, and we might do it in the future, right? But I had this idea when it comes to determining what ship we're going to be going up against, because there's a bunch of different kinds and sizes. The PirateBorg game actually comes with all these different cards. This is just a couple of the few that it comes with, and I was actually going to shuffle them up, right? And then draw one from the bottom to determine what size ship we were going to be facing, right? But in this case, I want it to be a fair fight, and so we're actually going to consider both of our ships right here sloops. So we can have a fair fight, so we can practice doing naval combat solo, because I haven't ever done this solo before. And so I want to see if it's possible. I want to see how well it flows. So we're doing a little bit of a testy, here. And we have our ship, and then we're going to have their ship, which is going to have the white sails, right? And so we'll say that they're like over here. Now, I know a lot about the naval combat, but of course I'll pull it out so we can go through it a little bit together as we play, so we could double check our rules, because I feel like that's important. And we have everything pretty much. We have all the rules references in so many different places. But I think the easiest way to do it would be to pull out our printed out GM screen here and see, look, I have all my notes. Session 0 notes, session 1 notes. I've got all my notes together, keeping it forever. Even if you print out things and type things up, it's just a fun thing that I like to do. Hope you do that. Okay, naval combat. We have it right there. We have it right there. This is like our quick reference sheet that you can get, the quick guide, and this is from the GM screen. I love that this is just like a full-on reference sheet for ships, like changing winds. We have all the different names of all the sails: top sail, course sail, spanker sail, bowsprit, foremast. It's fantastic. But this is the mechanic sheet that we actually need, so we're gonna pull this one out. So if our ship is here, we can rotate 60 degrees twice, but not at once, right? So if we're here, we want to be able to fire our broadsides at them, right? And we're trying to sneak up. But before we can sneak up to them, we need to make our agility check to see if our ship is quiet enough through the fog. We can get around to them and get a first line of attack, right? So we're going to roll our D20 plus 2 agility right here. And we're going to call it a DR of 12 as always. That's an 18 plus 2 makes it a dirty 20, baby. So we're going super slow through the water. And I think down in the water, we can also see Jilly Buckets going with us, guiding us a little bit. And Perry keeps looking down at her like bright purple eyes that just keep shining up at him as she points the way through the fog. Because she knows she can like see through the water. She can see the bottom of the other ship, right? And so she's pointing, telling us where to go. And Perry's like, I want to be able to get parallel with him so we can fire. And she's like, okay. And she's showing the way. And so we're going to move up like this, right? We're going to rotate once, and then we're going to move like this. And we can do, so move at least 1 hex up to speed in hexes. And our ship speed is 5, so that's 5 hexes. And we can rotate 60 degrees, 1 hex face, twice, anywhere along the move. But we can only do 1 rotation per hex. But I think that is going to get us there, which is fantastic. So we're going to pull up right here, right next to them. Now, the other fun thing about this, where was it? I guess for some reason it's not on there, but in the book, we get over to Naval Combat, we can actually see our broadside angle that we can fire in. So if we can compare it here to our ship, right? So our broadsides can go either that way or that way, and then everything else are like for like our swinging arms and everything. And I think we're gonna pull up to this ship real close, right? In the fog, and it's real quiet, and we can hear the vampires talking to each other on the other. And there's going to at least be 3 crew members on this ship, but I want to roll. We're gonna call it the captain plus 2 people, and then I'm gonna roll another D4 to see if there's any other people on this ship. And I think what we're gonna do actually is we're gonna roll a D6, and if we get under a 3, we'll roll it again. But up to 6 people are also gonna be on this ship. We'll see. So in between 3 and 6. What is that? That's a 6. Okay, great. There are 6 people on this other ship, so we can see them all over. And we can pull out our Down Among the Dead game, and we could look at these other vampires, and we could use their stat blocks and stuff, but we're going to use our pirate names for this guys. These are pelagic vampires that are on board the Maelstrom, so I guess technically we can't use them. Unless we want to use one, like as a captain of this ship, because there's a D8 here, so we could roll our D8. And then we'll just subtract him from the other gameplay. So let's see who is captaining this here sloop. Floop, floop. That's a 1. So we have Von Buren, German, Albrecht's first mate and quartermaster of the Maelstrom, stern, cold, and evil, wants order and obedience, often found in the forecastle cabin. Now we have the pelagic vampires stats right here. I think these are just real general stats too. And I'm almost wondering if it might be fun to say that he's aboard this ship, but they aren't vampires that are with. There's like 5 other like creatures, you know? Because aboard the Maelstrom itself, there are other creatures that are aboard the Maelstrom. What we could do is we can actually pull a card of our spades deck, and we can see who is on this sloop with him instead. I think that's actually make it a little more random. So we'll pull out our spades here, we'll shuffle it up, and we're gonna see. I rolled 6 at first, so we'll consider it a high number of whatever this is that we draw, but we're gonna make it something else. So it's gonna be Van Buren, the first mate of Albrecht, and something else. All right, from the top, 9. 9 is a necro mishap, escaped from below. Oh, because this is fallen encounters. It's not only creatures. Gotcha. All right, we're gonna pull it again. 7, crows from the Ravenwood. They spy and report back to Albrecht. So he's on the ship with a bunch of crows. There's no way that the crows are helping him sail the ship though. So how about we say we've got D4 crows and we've got D4 skeleton. I'm down with it. This actually makes it more creepy too, building out our country. So there's, that was a 1. So there's 1 crow and at least 2, but in total 2 skeleton. So it's 1 crow, this guy, skeleton. We can actually learn more about the crows as well. E2. So as we can see here, Ravenwood, freshly fallen leaves, crows cawing, perpetually autumn. In the trees, D4 crow eggs, and possibly the ritual in an old tome. Okay, so it doesn't give us anything else than that. They're just crows. There's no like stat blocks or anything. Okay. Well, I was hoping to get a stat block because to me, this makes it more challenging because if Alberic's out here just keeping an eye out, not Alberic, sorry, Van Buren is out here keeping an eye out for Alberic, trying to make sure no one wants to come and interrupt his ritual, right? Because the ritual has begun. So he's out here with the crow, and the crow obviously is going to have like magical purple eyes just like the siren. So we know that the crow is going to report back to Alberic, whether he's looking through the crow's eyes or whether, you know, magically somehow this crow can see really well. We know that. We need to take this crow out. We need to make sure it doesn't escape, right? And then we have the skeletons, which are just going to be regular skeletons and little, you know, skeleton stats. I think that's fine. So that means as we pulled up, they weren't talking to each other. As we pulled up, Van Buren was yelling commands at the skeletons, and they're just like stomping around the deck. I'm dum 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 dum. That's what I imagine. I don't know why. Okay, before we get our commands, we get out our stat blocks and we do everything else. One check I must. As we pull up to this ship deck and we're around a vampire, first time in a long time. Does Perry's coin in his pocket do anything? I'm going to call it really likely because it's fun story through. Maybe it doesn't activate. So we're actually going to use our cards for the first time here, and we're going to flip a card and we're going to call it likely, which means we're going to take the bottom option on the 3 option list. The odds are good that this happens, right? Okay, shuffled, flip. No, dang. All right, so nothing happens, but he pulls out that coin then at least himself and he starts rubbing it as he's staring at Von Buren. So usually each turn in Naval Combat, everyone rolls initiative every single turn to see who goes. It's usually the way that it goes. But since we snuck up, we're going to give ourselves an opportunity attack, an opportunity turn, and then we're going to roll initiative and do all that, right? So as Perry looks down at the crew, who's manning what? So Jilly Buckets is in the sea. Jim Bonesucker has one of the cannons. How many cannons do we have? Broadsides. We have 1 cannon. Because usually we say like 2 times D6. Means we only have 1. So we have 1 broadside and 1 small arm. So Jim Bonesucker, the brute, has the broadside cannon. And he's looking up at Perry, waiting for him to tell him to fire. And then Drake the Dreaded, I think, is going to be on the small arm up by Perry, looking at him. It's going to be right next to him. Which leaves Magnus the Merchant. And I think Magnus is just standing there. He's got his like big old bag of ash. You know, he's just waiting. And I think Magnus sees the skeletons there, and if he can manage to kill the skeletons, he can get more ash, right? So that's what he's all about. He's got his own agenda. He's like, yeah, time to up my inventory, you know what I mean? And even though Snake is the drunk, I think Snake would be up in the crow's nest with like a rope, like ready to swing along. You know what I mean? As we pull up, everyone's like ready, and we're just listening to this dude say some shit to the skeletons about, you know, keeping an eye out. You know, he's like, keep an eye out for everything. Yeah, I'm a vampire, you know what I mean? And Perry's like, oh, I'm gonna kill this fucker. Oh, I'm gonna get him. I don't think Perry recognizes this man, but he can see clearly that he's one of these ugly vampires. All right, boys, this is going to be the first time we're taking down a ship. Is everybody ready? And they all go, aye, aye, Captain. He's like, fire, right? Fire the broadsides. Fire the small arms. Big time. So we have to roll to hit for each one. So we roll our D20. We got to beat a 12. It's like the classic DC here. And then we get to roll our damage dice with our broadside. And these things just, the brute goes, and there's like this huge cannonball that just goes flying, and we could see Von Buren look and go, huh? As like this light of this fire of this cannon just lights up the sky right next to his ship, and smoke goes everywhere. Because that's going to be the first shot that we fire off here. It's a 6 + 2. Now we have 3 Devil's Luck. I'm going to go on ahead and just spend one. I'm going to spend one right meow. That's a 17, that's right. So now we're gonna roll our D6, and the sloop has a hull of D2, which means that their sloop is going to take 2 less damage on whatever our dice is, right? To a minimum of 1. So we're actually going to roll our D2, which is this awesome D2 right here. It's just a coin, basically. We're gonna do this at the same time as the D6 to help us save time, right? Together now. Hard to shuffle up a D2. So 6 and 1, that's 6. So we deal 5 damage, dude. Nice. So 5 damage. It puts them down to 25 HP than what they have. And then he's going to point over to Drake. He's going to go, fire the small arms, Drake. And he's going to do the same thing. So we're rolling our D20 to hit. That's a 12, which is perfect. And then we're going to roll our D4. And it's a tiny little cannon guy, right? So we're going to roll our D4 and our 2 at the same time. That is a 4 and a 2. Sad. So we're going to deal 2 damage this time. That's going to put them down to 23 damage. Now, you do 2 ship actions, and then if you have a crew of 5 or more, you can do up to 5 total actions. So we had 2 already. It doesn't count the captain, right? So the captain moves the ship and yells commands, basically. That's all that the captain does. That's all that Perry does. So we have technically 3 left, so we have to decide who we want to do what. And I think as this shit just blows up in their ship. Jilly Buckets is going to be down in the water, and she's actually going to sing up at Van Buren. I do not think she could sing to distract the skeletons, but she's going to sing up to Van Buren, and he's going to have to pass a presence test of 12. We'll just call it. Let's see. I want to find his actual character sheets in here real quick. He's on B1 apparently. No, that's just where we would find him. Okay, very good. So he's just going to make a presence check. He's got to beat a 12. Oh, it's cocked. It's cocked between 2 and 18. You got to respect the cock, everybody. We're going to roll it again. Is that a critical success? I think that's a critical success. He got a natural 20. So on a natural 20, does he have a pistol? Doesn't say that he has a pistol. I don't think he could reach all the way down into the water. He gets to make an attack right off is what I'm going to say, right? But I don't think he could reach into the water. So maybe he commands one of the skeletons to jump out into the water and try and stab. He goes, she starts singing like, you know what I mean? Follow me if you want to live, you whatever have you. And he just looks down at her and goes, then goes, sick him, and like points at the skeleton, and the skeleton jumps off the deck with swords in its hands like dum 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 dum, and dives into the water. And he's gonna try to attack Jilly Buckets with his little sword. Immediate attack, but that, I mean, it gets the skeleton off the deck, but now she has to deal with this thing in the water. A skeleton swimming around trying to stab her, you know what I mean? Whoops, I knocked that in, but that was a 5, so he's gonna miss, but he did get an immediate attack after. So now she's dealing with that in the water. Lastly, you see how this is working? I think it's cool. Everyone gets actions. It's like a normal round of combat. It's just very cool, like initiative kind of thing that they have with this naval combat. I like it a lot. It's simple, but effective. You know what I mean? So ash dealers come to resemble their customers, but can usually be picked out in a crowd by confident, dangerous swagger. After all, one can't easily source ash without hunting undead. Right. So he's super excited to fight these undead guys, right? Standing on the edge of the ship, I think I really want him to be able to like put ash in his gun and like use it as a weapon and like shoot it into some, like he's got a single shot pistol and he's loaded up his gun with ash and he's gonna fire it into somebody, you know what I mean? So then they go under the effects of ash whether they like it or not, and I think that that's super cool. I'm trying to see if this new book has any extra ash stuff. It doesn't look like it does. It has the ash dealer, but it doesn't have new ash, and that's okay. Okay, so let's go here. Ash effects. Okay, so we're gonna pull this out just in case, but first he's gonna try to fire his pistol off at Van Buren first and foremost. And since this is a ranged attack, we actually are going to pull out his stats here. Magnus the Merchant has a +2 to presence, which is sick because that's what we use to fire our pistol. And I did give him a small flintlock pistol, so it all still works out. So here we go. 5 + 2 is 7. He totally misses and just wastes a dose of ash. It just goes flying into the air. And Perry's like, what did you do that for? Just shooting at nothing. Okay, lastly, we have the dog who can't really help. And I don't really want him to anyway because can't have the dog die. You know what I mean? So lastly, we have Snake who has a rapier and a hidden knife. And I want to say that he's up top. I think that he sees the crow, and I think I think Drake tells Perry, like, Perry, you must stop the crow. It's gonna notify him. And Perry goes, oh, all right, Snake, get the bird. And he's up on this, up on the ropes up here. And I'm wondering if I want him to swing across with an agility, because then he can cheat, throw sand, stab from behind, or otherwise gain advantage on an attack. So I think he's just gonna grab this friggin' bird, and we'll give him advantage on the attack if he can make the agility test to get over to the other boat. So he's just gonna swing over there. He's gonna try to swing up to the top of the rafters of the other boat and try to get this bird. Okay, you just got to beat a 12. We have 2 devil's luck left, so we'll use it if we have to. It's a 16, so he swings over, and then we're going to give him advantage on grabbing this little bird up here. And he swings over, and he's going to like land on one of the masts, you know what I mean? And he's like tiptoeing over to this bird, and he's going to try to stab this bird while it's not paying attention. Advantage. Critical success, which means double damage. We're gonna let him hit with his rapier right here. We're gonna do 2d6, and I mean, it's just a bird. How much health is a bird? Let's go over to our sentient creatures. Foul. That's pretty good. HP is 4 plus toughness. So, cool. All right, thank you. So as long as we get 5, we'll say that we kill this bird. Let's get it. Oh. I think maybe instead we use 1 point to deal max damage with our attack, and we deal 12 damage to this bird, which will leave us with 1 devil's luck. Yeah, we're gonna do it because this is really important. So he stabs down as hard as he can on this bird, and I think the bird friggin' explodes and feathers go everywhere. And the vampire looks up and sees Snake drunkenly balancing on this mast with feathers flying everywhere. And he's like, oh, no, you didn't. He's fucking pissed. So the last thing that's going to happen, I think, in our round of combat, after that, I think Perry's just going to yell down at Guppy. And he's going to say, Guppy, hoy anchor, hoy hoy, Captain, I'm on it. And this little dog scurries across the deck of the ship and like pulls on this lever, and we hear the anchor go down. Because we don't want to like float away, you know what I mean? We're like where we're at, and Snake is on that other ship, right? We can't leave him behind, right? So now we're at the top of initiative. We're fine. They have 23 HP left. There's 2 skeletons left, and the crow is dead. So technically there's 3 skeletons, right? Because one just went down to the water with Jilly. So now we're going to roll initiative for both. We both have an agility of +2 because we're both rocking sloops. So we'll just say whatever is whatever. I'm going to roll a D6 for both of us. The first one is going to be for us. The second one is for them. So who goes first? Do we go first? That's a 6, and for them is a 6. What just happened? All right, let's roll it again. For us, a 3, and for them, a 2. Okay, so we do go first again, which I kind of feel bad about. Because I want them to be able to get in some actions, and I want them to be able to attack, but you never know. We could fail all of our actions, you know, and things could be... Okay, so we're going to talk about everything. So the captain just gets to move the ship and command, right? And that's all that Perry kind of gets to do. Unless the anchor is weighed, we could allow him to do something else, right? As a crewmate, but then that takes away from one of our crew actions that we could do. And I think that, I mean, we could do up to 5 total quote-unquote actions if we have 5 or more PCs on the deck of the ship, but that doesn't count the crew actions, all right, that I want to talk about here, because these are the crew actions. The fire the broadsides, the small arms, the full sail, etc. These are like the crew action. So I guess technically weighing anchor, since we fired both small and large arms, we couldn't have weighed anchor in the same turn. So we'll go on ahead and say that Perry had him weigh anchor on this turn. So that's going to take away from one of our crew acts, because I still want that to happen. Righteous. So, and as we can see up here at the top, it's 1 per player character or 2 per ship, which kind of makes it hard for us because they're technically NPCs, but they're still like main guys. And so I'm just going to go on ahead and lock it in at 5. I think whatever, you know what I mean, you want your game to be, you can have your game to be, but that also means that the enemies in this are going to get the same thing, right? So there's 3 skeletons and the guy, they could do 2 crew actions plus 2 more like rig actions, right? Is what I'm going to kind of call it. Things that someone can do not necessarily with the ship as a crew action, but just by themselves, right? That's what I'm gonna call. So once again, I mean, Perry's gonna yell right at Jim Bonesucker and be like, Jim, fire again! And we're just gonna fire. I mean, like that's... But does it hit? And we're gonna roll damage and their deflect at the same time, just in case if we actually hit this thing. So that is a 6 +2. We do not hit, so the other 2 dice don't mean nothing. This is just to speed up combat now since I did it regular last time. And then we're gonna fire the small arms. He's gonna point over at Drake. And Drake got a 19. Oh, but it's a D4, not a D6. So we're gonna reroll these. That is a 3 and a 2, so he only deals 1 more damage. That's fine. Puts us up at 8 total. Now we're gonna weigh the anchors. That's gonna take away 1, and we have 2 more things that we can do. Snake is on the other ship, so Snake is just gonna use his movement to climb down to the deck of the ship, I think, to kind of be there around the skeletons. You know, he's gonna use his whole action to climb down. I'm actually gonna roll acrobatics for him to see if because he's a drunk, right? Maybe he's got supreme acrobatics as a drunk guy. It's kind of like one of those things where he doesn't get hurt because he's just all loosey-goosey all the time. He's like, I'm gonna climb down. I'm gonna do my best. And then we're gonna go on ahead and roll it. I can't see what that is. What is it? It's a 15. Okay, so he does a really good job. But I think it's like not graceful, but he lands, he like slips and falls and slides down the ropes and gets like twirled up in a sail, and the sail unfurls, and then he lands on his feet like, ta-da! All right, now lastly, I want to try to see if Magnus can shoot with this ash gun again, and he's going to try to shoot right at this vampire. Come on, Magnus. Let's do this. And we could use, I really want it to hit, so we will use our last devil's luck if we have. Here we go. That is an 11. What is his presence? +2, so 13. So he does actually hit with the ash gun. Sick. So let's go over to our ash effects. And this could go really good or really bad. But the other thing is that vampires can't be hurt unless by magical means. So this is kind of one of the only ways we're going to get away with this. We'll see how it goes. So it's a D20 on the ash effect table. And he's also going to take damage from the pistol, which is a D6. And I think that he, in the book, if I remember right, I think it's for, we'll double check, for the pelagic vampire. That's still so funny to me. Him getting unfurled by the rope. Jesus. Vigor is a D6. Okay, so the damage 3, the defense 1. Okay, so he takes 2 damage. Good. And his ash effect is, what is that? An 8. one of your limbs rots away permanently, and it's replaced by a ghost limb at sunset. So as he gets shot in the arm, and he's like, what is that? And then his arm just like everything is drained from it, turns into like a little teeny tiny arm, like, this my strong hand, and then just like falls off. It's supposed to be a D4 I'm supposed to roll for, because it could be his leg. He could be a pig leg vampire. We're gonna say his arm is just gone now, and he didn't bleed from it, nothing. His arm is just gone. Was he holding, let's do a yes or no. Was he holding his sword in his arm? Yes or no? 50-50. No, he wasn't. Okay, so it was in his left hand he was holding his sword, so he doesn't drop it. Fine, that's cool. All right, so now it's their turn. The skeleton in the water, first of all, is going to try to just attack Jilly Buckets. So enemies in this game, it's supposed to be player forward, so enemies actually don't roll to attack, we roll to dodge. And since Jilly is in the water, she gets an extra D4 lower to all of her DRs. So instead of a D12, she just has to beat a D8 when it comes to dodge. And I really feel like it's crazy how these rules are just flowing at him. I didn't think I knew these rules that's wild. Anywho, where's our character's stuff? There it is. Jilly has a +1 agility, so she only needs to get a 7 or higher to just dodge away out of this skeleton attack. That's a 3 though. That's okay. The skeleton has a cutlass, so they're gonna do D6 damage. That's a 5 though. Jilly does not have any armor, which is a downfall of her being a siren. So she's only at 3 health left now, dude. That's would suck to lose Jilly this early. That would suck. Okay, down on the deck. I think that Von Buren, he's going to weigh anchor himself. He's going to run over and he's going to hit the lever, and the anchor's going to go down and the ship's going to stop in place. And so they're going to be like a little bit in front of us. Like we came this way, they're going to be like that. Like that's the way the ships are, just a little bit in front of us because he didn't hit it as fast as we did. But that's where we're at. And that's going to take up his whole turn. Without his arm, he's going to run over and hit and weigh anchor and be like, oh, dang it. And then the other skeleton on the deck, because there's 2 left on the deck, is going to try to attack our boy Snake. And Snake has a +2 agility, so he's only got to get a 10 on the die to dodge. That's a 19. He goes, sorry. Can't hit me, man. So close to being a critical hit. And then there's 1 skeleton left. I, for some reason, just want this skeleton to have some kind of a pistol so he can shoot across to make it a little bit more even. So the skeleton's going to have a pistol is what he's going to have. Remember, you shoot once and then it takes 2 turns to reload. So that's kind of where he's at. But he's going to try to shoot, I guess, directly at Perry. It only makes sense. He sees it. He's the captain calling off the shot. So Perry's going to try to dodge this. And Perry has +4 to agility. I forgot. He's impossible to hit. So he only needs to get an 8 on the die. That is a 6. Oh no. So Perry's going to get hit by this flintlock. He's got 15 health. Flintlock does D6. But he has armor of... Where the crap is our armor? Oh, we only have common clothes, so we don't have any armor yet. Okay. 4 damage to Perry the pirate, bringing him down to 11. As he gets shot with his pistol. And he's like, oi, is this what this means to be a pirate? So no, he's only at 11. And it's crazy, in the last episode I was like, I know we got all these people on the deck, but I'm not gonna use all of them, I might get overwhelmed. I'm actually not. I'm actually having a good time. So adding in a full crew was a good idea. Good on past me for doing it. But anywho, that's the middle of combat. So what we're gonna say right now is, in the distance, we hear a bell toll. Gong, gong, and like lightning strikes. Then someone has been sacrificed. And I'm gonna shuffle this, and I don't know who it's gonna be, but they're gonna go into the dead bit, right? They're gone. I wish I had a place to put them. So whoever this is right here at the top is now deceased. One of the prisoners. All right, now we roll initiative for both ships once again. For us, 2. For them, 5. So they get to go first. Oh no, Jilly Buckets. Oh no. And she didn't get to take a turn last turn. Wait a minute. Who all went? I think what we did was fair. So that sucks. She could use movement though, can she? On her turn, we could say that she swims far away from the skeleton and leaves him to sink just because she's so hurt. But he attacked after, so he would have already been next. All right. Fair is fair. The skeleton's going to try to hit with his cutlass once again. And she only needs a 7 on the dot. Okay? This isn't hard. Dodge it. 13, very good. So she swims out of the way of the skeleton and it's cut. Very good. Okay, now that Von Buren has weighed anchor, he's missing an arm, he's got his sword. So he also has bite. It regains half that much HP if he bites. He also has claw or cutlass, and he can do 2 attacks with his cut. And so I'm wondering what he would do. Would he try to jump across and get at Perry? I think it'd be fun to have just him in a sword fight with Snake with his 1 friggin' arm. Maybe we could put him at disadvantage because he only has 1 arm. I'm kind of cool with that. Which means that Snake gets advantage on his defense roll. So we're going to do that. And he's going to attack him twice. So Snake's like, this is good. Okay, me, Mr. Fang guy. You got fangs in your face, don't you? I don't care. And he's going to try to dodge out of the way. That's a 16. He dodges the first one. And he's going to try to dodge again. That is an 18. He dodges them both. He's like, and now there's 2 skeletons left on the deck. One of them spends his turn reloading, and the other one is going to fire broadsides. That's what he's going to do. So it's going to roll to hit his broadsides, which I think it should actually be roll to dodge, but whatever. It works same way. If you're playing, probably roll to dodge with your boat, but whatever. We have a D2 on our hull, the same, and the captain's going to go, fire the broadsides, as he's pissed trying to stab Snake. Here we go. That is a 6, so they straight up whiff, totally miss. We got a 1 and a 1 on the defense anyway. And then that's going to end their turn. Now it's our turn, and Perry goes, no, fire the broadsides. Quit blowing holes in me ship. Very good. Okay, so now we're gonna fire. That is a 9, so we totally miss with our broadsides as well. And then we'll fire our small arms, and that is a D4. Also a 2. We missed both things, so we're gonna blow up the ship this turn. So more ash effects, I guess. We need it. We're gonna have to, if we're gonna use this as a weapon, we have to keep track of the total ash the dude had. That's just like what I'm for sure. Jilly Buckets though is going to grab this skeleton and swim it down to the bottom of the sea and leave it. So as she dodges out of the way, she's gonna reach around and grab him and try to just go way down. And she doesn't have any strength, but it's still lowered by 4. So she has to get an 8 to grapple him and just swim down and leave him there. So we're gonna roll for it. Higher than an 8. That's a 19. So she grabs the skeleton, swims down to the bottom of the ocean, leaves him there, and comes back. You know, there's a skeleton just down there, like dum da dum da dum da 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 da, like mad, like. It's so funny. Okay, so that's dealt with, and now Snake is on the deck. So Snake can't hurt the vampire currently. So I think after Snake dodges out of the way, he's gonna grab a rope and just try to swing back over. We're just gonna call this movement, but I want to roll to see if he makes it. That is a natural 20. What the fuck is happening right now? So Snake grabs this thing and like trips over something and does a backflip and then just like lands perfectly back on our ship, and he's like, honey, I'm home. Oh, he's got like feathers in his hair from the exploded bird still. Good. Now we're going to fire our ash gun once again, try and hit, and we still have that last devil's luck if we want to use it. Here we go. 15, so we totally hit. Our damage is 6, but he reduces it by, whoops, in the box please. What is that, a 3? That's a 2, so he takes 4 damage, and his ash effect is 10. So you hear color, see sound, and feel taste. That is his ash effect that happens to him as he gets shot with. He goes, what is this? And he's a vampire, right? So I think like he can't taste a lot. Would that have an effect on him as a vampire? I don't know. He turns into a bat of some... Oh. Anyways, his ship is damaged. He's seeing weird colors. Everything is crazy. His morale is 9. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull up our rules reference here. It's not on there. That's odd. Let's try the other one. Morale. Half the group is eliminated if it has 1/3 of its HP left, which it does. If you roll greater than the creature's morale, roll a d6. They'll either flee or surrender. His morale is 9, so we're going to roll for morale on this guy to see what he does in this moment, because he's taken 6 total damage. His ship is messed up. Half his crew is gone. So here we go. Get above a 9. That's a natural 20. So I'm just going to go out on a limb here. Well, actually, let's roll to see if he surrenders or if he flees. But there's no one on the ship with him, so he has complete free movement, even though he's missing an arm, which, by the way, he's missing an arm. There's nothing stopping him from just running, right? But I want to know, on a natural 20, yeah, he's just going to friggin' flee. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, he's going to pull up the anchor on his turn, and he's going to try to run, right? But since it's a natural 20 on his morale, I think instead, in the book, it says that they can turn into fish-like creatures because they're like half fish, right? It says that it's basically just cosmetic. But what if he turns into a fish-like creature and dives into the water and swims toward the island like as fast as he can, right? And I was gonna roll to see if like yes or no if he's gonna do that, but I think it's just hilarious. He just dives off this boat and just goes as fast as he can. So I think that's exactly what he's gonna do, leaving the 2 skeletons behind because that's all that's left. And I think they see this happen. Do they flee? I'm gonna call it good odds that they flee. Let's flip. Yes. Okay. They both also flee. Maybe they jump into the water and they try to swim, but they can't. They just sink with the other one. So now there's just 3 skeletons walking towards the island on the dirt down way in the deep down dark. Hilarious. Okay. The whole crew cheers. Yar! We did it! Screw that friggin' guy! And I think Drake's like, well, Perry, he's gonna go tell that Albrecht we're on our way. And Perry's like, hey, he's missing an arm. It's gonna take him a while to get there. What boys do you say that we loot this here ship before we move on? And everyone's like, yar! Loot the ship! So looting the ship, we're not gonna find any food or grog because vampires don't eat, right? But we might be able to find something else. Okay, first thing I want to see on this here ship. I'm going to call it unlikely, but I'm going to flip for it. Do we find a relic here that maybe he had? Unlikely. Yes, we do. Okay, exciting. Or there is a relic on the ship. What is it? Can we find it? I want to use a relic from the book just to, use some more book things. I wonder if there's any included in this. I don't think there really doesn't look like it. But what we can do is we can actually pull a card from our card decks here. I think treasure. Yes. So we can pull treasure. And if it isn't a relic, then we'll pull something again, but it's diamonds. So let's pull out our diamonds deck. Is this still spades? Okay. We're going to shuffle up diamonds for treasure we might find. And this is also treasure that we might find on the Maelstrom, but I don't think we're going to go through every single one on the Maelstrom. So we're going to draw one here. We find the ace, which is the sanguine pendant necklace, 7 large blood red diamonds set in white gold and interwoven with bone carving. What if the sanguine pendant was on like a bracelet that old dude had on his arm, and when his arm fell off, he forgot that the bracelet was on his arm? It's worth 2,000 silver, so we find this really rad bracelet that he had that fell off of his arm, but that's also not a relic. So let's go over to our relics, and I'm also going to check here in Cabin Fever, see if there's any new ones. Captains, unique monsters, one shot, cursed treasures. Cursed treasures might be perfect. Okay, we're gonna roll a d6 on this cursed treasures right here in the front of Cabin Fever. As a 1, the Cutthroat Cutlass, D8 damage, cannot be used for non-lethal attacks. After its first kill, it binds to the hand of its wielder and cannot be dropped. Requires 1 kill per day, or withers the arm of the wielder. 4 withers and the arm falls off, releasing the cutlass. Maybe he also had a cutlass in his arm and his arm withered off? The ash just increased the effects of this thing? That's crazy. I was really hoping for the cool dragon cannon down here at the bottom, but that didn't happen. So the Cutthroat Cutlass. Guess what? It's a magical item. It is. And we're going to give it to Snake. Snake now has the Cutthroat Cutlass. Does it have any extra? It has a D8 damage instead of a D6. I think Perry picks it up and looks at it and he goes, "Well, is this fancy? Hey, Snake, I know me and you don't get along very well, but how about a gift for doing so well in the last battle? You're crazy, you drunken bastard. You made us all laugh. I can't believe you're as acrobatic as you are." And he goes, "Well, no, I'll take it though. Thanks, bud." And he puts it right in his thing and looks at his other sword and he's like, "Eh," and tosses it. What a guy. Anything that's broken on our ship, did we get hit at all? Well, they tried and they missed, so our ship is fine. So I think maybe we just take like some sails, maybe like some things Perry sees that we might need for our ship off of this ship and puts it in our stuff. And I think what's left, I think the ship that's left is still fine, just damaged. It took almost 10 damage and it has a total of 30 HP, so it's not too messed up. But I think Perry might turn to Drake and be like, look, I know you've done a lot for me teaching me how to sail. If you want your own ship, you're welcome to take this one. I don't mind. I didn't want it. And I think Drake is like, well, we weighed the anchor. We weighed the anchor. So I say, we'll leave it here. I'll come back for it if I want. All right, well, good for you. And then as we all get back on the ship and head towards this island where the Maelstrom is, because we're going to for sure do this next episode, I think we hear the bell toll one more time. Shing, shing. And then another prisoner passes away. We take it off the top of the deck. So now there's only 11 cards left. Chances of them being all of our people is not good, right? So that's that. And now we are all headed to the final island to find where the Maelstrom makes birth and go and take it down. It's good. It's a good episode. I enjoyed that combat a lot. It's fun to be able to do combat on some ships. So additionally, I should mention, if you guys want to play this game, you could go around and there's extra ships around. You could actually travel and go around each other and get angles and stuff, you could do that. I really wanted to get deck on deck ship to practice with these guys and see their abilities. And I also just wanted to fire some cannons. So this was fun for me. I hope that you enjoy Naval Combat as much as I do. It's one of my favorite little combat systems that I've come across in a while, because it's once you get it, it's easy enough, and it isn't too crunchy, but it has just enough, to not leave you wondering, I think that it's cool. And I've played it so much, I hope I didn't play a version of it that is no longer, because after you play a game for a while, you kind of lean towards one way, and then you kind of start doing things your own way. I hope that didn't happen today. I really tried to reread the rules. I did last week, I tried. So anyways, that, my friends, is what we're going to leave episode 3 of PirateBorg. If you've been enjoying the series, make sure to leave a like. Hey, next week is going to be our final episode of PirateBorg, so make sure to come and join for that. We're going to be doing the giveaway, doing all the stuff, and if the sooner you want to see me return to Pirate World with Sundered Isles, make sure to leave likes on episodes, because it will encourage me to come back and do some more stuff. Final shout out, of course, to Limithron for sending me over all this stuff to use it, and to Cantrip Candles for sending me this awesome candle. Let's go to the other screen. Let's look and see if we can see our dice yet. I cannot see it in there yet. It's hard to see even on the camera, but I can't see it yet either. All that wet, melted wax right there on the top. It's pretty good stuff. I can't see it in there yet, but there is, I think it's a brass metal D20 from my scene from their social media. So hopefully I'll burn this throughout the week, and hopefully we can get down to the D20 for the finale next week. Yeah, hopefully we can get there. Well, my friends, once again, thank you so much for supporting the show, joining me on this adventure. I love doing these characters and all this stuff, and I really want to thank our channel members and Ko-Fi supporters. Thank you for supporting the show. A lot of this stuff wouldn't happen without your assistance, so thank you so much for being there and helping out. It really does mean the world to me. And everybody else, take a seat on the couch and roll initiative by subscribing, because 90% of you aren't subscribed. And roll initiative, at least for a little while, or until you find yourselves on the deck of a ship trying to kill a vampire yourselves. Roll on that, weirdos. Cheers, and I'll see you next time. A toodaloo!